Hey, welcome everyone to another coach video tip. As you know, my name's Dan Foster. I am the Chief Operating Officer and an executive coach here at Building Champions. And today I have the privilege of speaking with one of our great executive coaches, Dr. Drew Lawson. Drew, welcome. It is great to be with you.
Thank you. Love to be here, Dan. This sounds like fun.
It is going to be fun. In this week's coach video tip, we're talking about mental toughness. And so I'm super excited to learn about this because I don't know about you, Drew, but the last few years with all the uncertainty and a lot of ups and downs, I think for people, whether it be personally or professionally, there's just been a lot coming at us and it is exhausting mentally. So I'm really pumped that we get to talk about this today. I want to hear about what you're learning, not only in your studies, but also as your time in the coach's seat, you're talking to your clients, you're seeing how this is being lived out by some great leaders. So if you're ready, let's jump in. Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right, bud. All right. So let's talk first. When we talk about mental toughness, what do we mean by this, Drew? Let's just start at the basics here. Define this for me.
A lot of different definitions. People will say different things. It's the ability to control and manage our thought life.
Okay.
And we are taught, I think, in life and in all throughout our culture that it's super important to be physically fit, but no one teaches us about our mental fitness and how it's equally or more important.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I know that I do that. Like when I wake up and I think about my week and I think about kind of, Monday morning, I'm thinking, when am I going to get my workouts in? But you're saying, hey, it's also important to be thinking about the whole mental, emotional side of who you are and what are you going to do to prepare yourself so that you're ready for the week mentally, it sounds like. Is that right?
I would say there's an and with that statement, and the
Great.
and is we need to change our brain chemistry and rewire it so that we make better decisions and are better leaders in all that we do. So I think it's the process of developing our mental fitness throughout the morning routine and also throughout our days.
Awesome. Okay, so I really want to jump into like, how do we do that? But before, I want to know what you're seeing about why mental toughness is just so important for leaders. Like, what are you noticing out there right now?
Well, I mean, to me, it's the single most important thing a leader can develop. And it optimizes our productivity, our resilience, our ability to influence, make great decisions, and
Yeah.
our emotional intelligence, et cetera. I can keep going. So I really think that it is, as a leader, the most important thing is self-leadership, which is what we're
Yeah.
talking about, and how to
Yes.
develop it so that we can be, and then we can move on to be, great team leaders as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about then what's at risk for me. If I don't make this an area of focus, an area of self-awareness where I understand the importance of this, what's at risk for me as a leader if I don't develop this mental toughness that you're talking about?
Great question. It leaves us in survival mode. And when we're
Mm,
in survival mode, we tend to leave a wake of poor decisions and disheartened employees and broken
yeah.
stuff.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think that's really the key is where it keeps us in survival mode, and our brain chemistry does not do well with survival mode. And
Yep.
we need to shift it to thrive mode.
Yeah, absolutely. Drew, I have come to believe personally that self-awareness is really the beginning of all of this in terms of understanding my self-leadership, my team leadership, my organizational leadership. And so, how does a leader, like, how would I assess whether I'm mentally tough or mentally weak? I hate to use that word mentally weak, but like you said, maybe I'm in survive mode all the time because sometimes when you're going through it, you don't know it. You're just in the battle day in and day out, putting out fires, trying to seize opportunities, tackle the challenges that are big for your team or your organization, or just even for your small business if you're leading them. So how do I know? How do I assess where I'm at mentally?
It's a great question with a probably long answer, but the short answer that comes to mind is first and foremost, we don't start our Zoom meetings and our meetings with a mental fitness check-in. And I
Ah,
encourage all my clients just to do a quick mental fitness check-in. Where are we at? Are we in overwhelm mode? Are we in stress mode? And all of those kind of check-ins help us to
yes.
determine if we are in survival mode or thrive mode. And so
Okay.
that's probably the easiest, free assessment we can take is just with ourselves and our team. How mentally fit, how charged is our battery right now in a mental fitness way? Um, Obviously there are other assessments out there. My favorite is, a PQ assessment. That's a free assessment you can get
Yep.
on a website that we can share with you guys.
Absolutely.
And
We'll put
then,
that in
you know,
notes.
yeah, and then there's also we at Building Champions use emotional intelligence assessment. There's
Yep.
another free assessment out of the work of Professor Duckworth called the Grit Assessment. There's all these different assessments we can take and
Great.
learn more about our mental fitness.
Yeah, and I think that's where I want to go next is to really think about what are some of the best practices for me as a leader, and for our audience, people whether they're leading just themselves and they're an entrepreneur, small business owner, or whether they've got a team or they're leading an entire organization or a major function of the business. What are some best practices for leaders to become more mentally tough? What are some things that you're coaching your people on? What have you heard from your clients that's working really well?
Well, I guess before I answer that, I want to kind of say that this takes time and effort.
Okay.
It's
Yep.
it's just like physical fitness. You
Yeah.
got to build the muscles,
Yep.
and so it's all about building the mental muscles, and that takes time and effort. But the studies show that if we take the time and make the effort, they've done, all the nerds out there have done and looked at, these functional MRIs and all this fancy, medical stuff, and seen that we can actually change our brain. We can develop the gray matter in our brain in areas that make us thrive. And we can actually shrink the gray matter in the brain that are areas that are unhealthy for us. So we can actually build a literal muscle in our brain to
Yep.
be all that we can be, more efficient, all the things we talked about. Now,
Yeah.
that being said, I guess for the sake of time, one simple way of doing this is breathing. How
Mm.
often are we checking in with our breathing? And it
Yep.
sounds pretty simple, but if we, throughout the day, if right now I got you to make the effort to be doing some breathing exercises throughout the day, that in and of itself will increase the gray matter in that thrive area of your brain. And there's a lot of different breathing techniques out there, but I'll share
Yeah.
one briefly out of Stanford, a neuroscientist in Stanford who's big into this. He's calling sigh breathing.
Okay.
And sigh breathing is breathing in and not all the way in, but pausing almost all the way, and then breathing even more, and then letting it out. So you breathe in a little bit, you breathe in all the way, and then out. And he
Love
calls
it.
it sigh breathing. And if you do it for a few times, just comfortably, don't exert yourself, you will
Yeah.
feel almost immediately a sense of something different, something shifted. In fact, I have my clients sometimes when they're on the phone and the first 5 minutes of the call is overwhelm. Like they
Yeah.
are in overwhelm. You can just sense it. I will say, hey, would it be okay if we just pause and do a couple sigh breathings? And literally in a minute after they're done, after we're done doing together, I say, anything shifted? And they almost universally say, wow, like I needed that. And now it totally shifts the brain chemistry. So it's quick, it's easy. And if you do it enough, you will change your brain.
That's great, man. Man, Drew, this is one of the reasons why I love talking with you is because you are a doctor. You bring in this medical, physiological side to the coaching practice, if you will. And I can't believe that your clients wouldn't just absolutely just love everything that you bring in from that side into the leadership coaching side. So it's awesome, bud. I love that you get to do that. Something that when you were talking there, it kind of triggered something as I was thinking about. A lot of leaders think that sharing emotion is a sign of weakness, and they think you got to be strong. You can't let people in. You can't really be vulnerable and transparent. And what I'm hearing you say is that actually is weakness. That sort of line of thought, that actually mental toughness is being self-aware of where you're at emotionally, and it's okay to talk about it. Am I picking that up right in terms of kind of what you're throwing down around mental toughness?
Absolutely. And you bring up a whole nother topic, which I'm, passionate about, is really the work of Brene Brown.
Yeah.
And she's done extensive research in this, and she's even worked with, some of these Navy SEAL types.
Yep.
And, there's some quotes in her books that she even quotes and quotes these Navy SEAL types that say, hey, out in battle, vulnerability is courage, and you can't
Yes.
be courageous without it. And so the whole idea of vulnerability being weakness, it's the opposite. And so we need to lean into this process. And part of it is accepting that most of us are not mentally tough, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And let's address it.
Love it, man. Love it. All right, Drew. Hey, this has been great. Thank you so much. If you're listening today or watching today and you want to know more about Drew and how he helps leaders like you just improve their overall mental toughness, which then leads to greater self-leadership, team effectiveness, organizational impact, man, check out our website at buildingchampions.com, or you can connect with Drew on LinkedIn. Drew, thank you so much, bud. This has been wonderful. So great to be with you, and thanks for sharing everything.
It's a joy, and always a joy to talk about this stuff. And I'm super passionate about it, as you can tell. So I really
Yes.
appreciate the time.
You bet, Drew. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you soon.